Indian Wells is starting today, and I always feel there is kind of a lull in tennis, although of course there have been tournaments from the Australian Open to now, and now it's kind of back to back to back. We have Indian Wells, then we have Miami, and then we go back on clay, and then it's the French Open pretty soon. So I'm always excited for that period of the year. So let's look at it. On the men's draw, we don't have Novak Djokovic for known reasons. Carlos Alcaraz is the top seed. Rafa Nadal is still out with an injury. And it is Carlos Alcaraz, Stephanos, Tsitispas. And then the number 3 seed is Casper Ruud. And on number 4, we have Taylor Fritz, the defending champion. And that's where I'm actually going to start, because he's going to have a really, really interesting, and that's going to be super fun to watch, second round. Ben Shelton or Fabio Fognini? So Fabio Fognini is in the later stages of his career, let's say, and Ben Shelton obviously is one of the rising stars, and he is really, really dangerous. And for him to play the defending champion then in the second round, that might have upset material potential there. So that's definitely a match that I'm going to look forward to. But to win the whole thing, I'm going to go with Daniil Medvedev, because that guy has just, dominated the last 3 tournaments that he played. And unless he's getting tired, because he played obviously a lot of tennis in the last 3-4 weeks, he's beaten everybody en route to winning those tournaments, including Novak Djokovic, who has had a hot streak again, but as I said, he's not there. If you go from the top down in the draw, you have Carlos Alcaraz at 1, and then in that half, you have Hubert Hurkacz, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Taylor Fritz, and Alex de Minaur, who just won in Acapulco. So that's going to be interesting to see how he does now that he won a huge tournament. And then Yannick Sinner and Holger Rune. And then if you go into the bottom half, you got Daniil Medvedev, and I think up to the round of 8, it's very doable for him. He does have Sasha Zverev in there as the next highest seeded, but Zverev is coming back still from a long-term injury, so that's Daniil Medvedev. I'm on there. And you have Casper Ruud, as I said, and then Cameron Norrie, who did really, really well. Won a tournament, beat Alcaraz there, but that was on clay, so who knows how he's handling the transition. But let's not forget, he won Indian Wells a couple of years ago, so he obviously loves the conditions there. And then at the bottom, you have Stephanos Tsitsipas. So yeah, lots of good tennis coming up. Looking forward to a couple of matchups in the early rounds. Let me know down in the comments who you have as the winner on the men's side and who you are looking forward to watching in the early rounds. And yeah, would also love to hear if any of you have ever been in Indian Wells. Obviously, it's been a while since I was there, but I do have very, very fond memories because I did really well. One of my best matches I had there against, back in the day, she was top 10, I believe, Brenda Schultz-McCarthy, the big serving Dutch woman, and also had a good match against Martina Hingis there, although I got my high knee kicked, score-wise, but I still really enjoyed it. It's a fantastic tournament, and yeah, let me know if you have been there and or if you're planning to go this year. All right, Indian Wells on the women's side. Let's see who we have. Of course, Iga Swiatek is the player to beat. The only reason, although she doesn't strike me as anybody who is succumbing to the external pressure. And the external pressure could be that she feels, okay, now she is defending her number 1 spot in the world. Not really because somebody is kind of nipping at her heels, but because she has a tremendous amount of points to defend from now on. Literally from last year on, she won everything. She won Indian Wells, Miami, then Europe, won pretty much everything. She has a chunk of points to defend, but I'm not seeing her crumbling. At number 2 in the seeding list, we have Aryna Sabalenka, and that is an interesting one right from the get-go, because in the potentially third round for her, she's seeded so she has a bye, she could play Dana Vekic, who has just won a tournament and is a very, very experienced player, had a kind of drought for a couple of years, but is now back, and that is a dangerous player right there. And I'm actually looking at the draw right now. There's Alizé Cornet in the first round to play against Rodina to play Sabalenka, and Cornet is always good for surprises because she has such a crafty style. She can just do so many things on court. But let's look a little bit more at the draw. If we're looking at the top, there is, of course, Iga Swiatek. And yeah, in the third round there, Bianca Andreescu is waiting if she's going through. So that also is a really good and fun matchup. And then there's a couple of players that I want to point out to you to kind of put on your radar. One is Alicia Parks, just won a bunch of tournaments at the end of last year. And she is a player that, yeah, store that name away. And then also in the top half, very interesting to me, 2 players actually from the Czech Republic. One is Linda Noskova and the other one is Linda Fruhvirtova. And those are just absolutely fearless youngsters, have nothing to lose. And yeah, those are the future names that you want to have in mind. And potentially really cool second round is Caroline Garcia against Danielle Collins, if Danielle Collins wins her first round. And yep, Danielle Collins knows how to win on a big stage. But Caroline Garcia, I mean, I watched so many of her matches now, it's like, yay, fantastic tennis, really cool to watch. If we then look at the bottom draw, other than Aryna Sabalenka, Ons Jabeur is back, but she's had an injury. She hasn't played a whole lot, so we'll see. And then we have a couple of fun matchups there in the first round. Sloane Stephens against Sophia Kenin. And yeah, there's Paula Badosa in there too, but she lost a chunk of points, so she's now not in the spotlight anymore, but I'm kind of waiting for her to kind of switch it back on to have her re-breakthrough, if you will. And who else do we have? Other second round that could be very interesting is Maria Sakkari against the winner of Katie Volinets and Shelby Rogers. And Shelby Rogers, to my mind, is always somebody who, if she wins that, who can stage upsets, especially against a right now sort of a little bit shaky player like Maria Sakkari. I think Maria Sakkari is hugely dependent on her confidence. And Shelby Rogers is such a steady player that could be an upset right there. And other than that, we have Barbora Krejcikova. She's just won the last tournament, beat Iga Swiatek. So let's see if she can keep up her form, because I also love her style of play because she's so versatile. She can do anything. She can match up to everybody. And if she is on that day, yeah, that could be a threat again against Iga Swiatek. And then you always have the players like Ostapenko and Jessica Pegula, who, man, they've done really well, especially Jessica Pegula. She is kind of ready, to my mind, to win a big one, and where better than Indian Wells here in America as an American player. So really cool, fun tennis to see. And yeah, again, let me know down below who you have as the winner and who you're watching in the first rounds.